I still remember the exact moment my phone buzzed that night. I was sitting alone in my small apartment, the heater humming softly, my dinner untouched. When I saw Mom on the screen, my heart skipped the way it always used to when I was a kid. "Sweetheart," she said warmly, "I miss you so much. Why don't you come home for the holidays?" Her voice sounded gentle, almost fragile. I hadn't been home in 2 years. Life had pulled me away, work, bills, loneliness dressed up as independence. But hearing her voice cracked something inside me I didn't know was still broken. She said, "I'll book your ticket. Don't worry about the cost. I just want my child home." That night, I cried quietly. Not because I was sad, but because I felt chosen. The flight home felt like traveling backward in time. The clouds outside the window looked like soft memories, floating and distant. I imagined Mom waiting at the door, hugging me tight, maybe even cooking my favorite food like she used to. When I landed, she hugged me. But something felt different. Her arms were quick. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Still, I told myself I was overthinking. Parents get tired. Life changes people. The house looked the same from outside. But inside, it felt unfamiliar. My younger siblings ran past me, laughing loudly. Suitcases sat near the door. "Are you all going somewhere?" I asked casually. Mom avoided my eyes. "Oh, we'll talk later." That's when I felt it. That quiet tightening in my chest. That evening, while we sat at the dining table, Mom finally spoke. "So," she said slowly, stirring her tea, "your father and I have planned a short vacation." I smiled. "That's nice. You deserve it." She nodded, then added, "You'll stay here and watch the kids." The room went silent. I laughed nervously. "You mean, help a little?" "No," she said softly. "I mean you'll take care of everything." My heart sank. "You called me home, for this?" I asked. Her face hardened slightly. "We don't trust babysitters. And your family." Family. That word felt heavy. I looked around, the packed bags, the excited children, the tickets on the table. Suddenly, everything made sense. I wasn't invited home. I was assigned. That night, I lay awake in my childhood bedroom, staring at the ceiling. The posters were gone. The walls felt empty, just like me. I replayed her words again and again. "I just want my child home." But what she really meant was, "I need someone responsible while we disappear." The next morning, they left. I smiled. "No
That's
long
nice.
goodbye. You
No
deserve
apology."
it." Mom hugged
She
me
nodded,
quickly and whispered,
then added,
"Be good. You'll stay here
Then
and
the
watch
door
the kids."
closed.
And
The
just
room
like
went
that, I was
silent.
alone.
I laughed
with responsibilities I never
"You mean,
agreed to.
help a little?"
As the house fell quiet,
"No," she
one
said
thought
softly.
echoed in my mind.
"I mean you'll take
Was
care
I ever
of
really
everything."
loved? Or just
My
useful?
heart sank.
"You called me home, for this?" I asked. Her face hardened slightly. "We don't trust babysitters. And your family." Family. That word felt heavy. I looked around, the packed bags, the excited children, the tickets on the table. Suddenly, everything made sense. I wasn't invited home. I was assigned. That night, I lay awake in my childhood bedroom, staring at the ceiling. The posters were gone. The walls felt empty, just like me. I replayed her words again and again. "I just want my child home." But what she really meant was, "I need someone responsible while we disappear." The next morning, they left early. No long goodbye.
No apology.
Mom hugged me quickly and whispered, "Be good." Then the door closed. And just like that, I was alone. With responsibilities I never agreed to. As the house fell quiet, one thought echoed in my mind. Was I ever really loved? Or just useful? The door didn't slam when they left. It closed softly, almost politely. That made it worse. I stood there for a long moment, staring at the wooden door as if it might open again. As if Mom would suddenly remember something important, like me, and come back inside. But the house stayed quiet. Too quiet. The kids started arguing within minutes. One wanted breakfast. Another couldn't find his shoes. The youngest was already crying for Mom. I took a deep breath and reminded myself, it's just for a few days. That's what I told myself. Because if I thought any deeper, I knew I'd break. By noon, I realized how unprepared I was. There was a schedule taped to the fridge. Meal times, school pickups, homework rules, emergency numbers. My name wasn't written anywhere. But every responsibility was. I cooked lunch the best I could. The kids complained it didn't taste like Mom's. I smiled anyway. Smiling felt easier than explaining the tight knot in my chest. While they ate, I watched them quietly. They were growing up fast. Too fast. And somehow, without me. That afternoon, while helping with homework, I remembered something. I used to sit at this same table as a child. Waiting. Listening. Waiting for praise that never came. Listening to arguments I pretended not to hear. I told myself my parents were just busy. Now, as an adult sitting in the same chair, I realized something painful. They weren't busy. They were absent. Around evening, my phone buzzed. A message from Mom. Everything okay? I stared at the screen. Everything okay? I wanted to tell her about the crying, the chaos, the exhaustion already settling into my bones. Instead, I typed, yes, all good. I don't know why I lied. Maybe because I still wanted to be the good child. Night came slowly. I tucked the kids into bed, reading stories I barely remembered. The youngest asked, when will Mommy come back? I hesitated. Soon, I said. But the word felt empty. After they fell asleep, I sat alone on the couch. The TV was off. The lights were dim. The silence was loud. That's when it hit me. I wasn't just babysitting. I was filling a role. A role I'd been training for my entire life. Being responsible, quiet, understanding, invisible. I thought about my childhood. About how I learned not to ask for things. How I learned to solve my own problems. How I learned that love was something you earned by being useful. No one ever said it out loud. But I felt it. The next day was worse. The youngest had a fever. One kid refused to go to school. The washing machine broke mid-cycle. I stood in the laundry room, staring at the leaking water, and suddenly, I laughed. A quiet, broken laugh. Because it was either that, or cry. Called Mom. She answered on the third ring. Her voice sounded light. Happy. Music played in the background. Hey. Everything okay? She asked again. I swallowed. The youngest is sick, I said. And I'm a little overwhelmed. There was a pause. Then she said, you'll manage. You always do. Always. That word landed hard. After the call ended, I sat on the floor and cried for the first time since arriving. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just silent tears. The kind you wipe away quickly because you've learned no one is coming to comfort you. By the third day, my body was moving before my mind could catch up. I woke up before the alarm, even though I hadn't set one. My eyes burned from lack of sleep, and my head throbbed like it was trying to remind me that I was human, not a machine built to fix everyone else's problems. The house smelled like cold coffee and detergent. I stood in the kitchen, staring at the sink, and for a moment, I forgot where I was. Then I heard footsteps. Reality returned. The kids needed breakfast. School bags. Clean clothes. Smiles. I gave them all of it, except the last one. That one was gone. That afternoon, while the kids were at school, I finally sat down. Not to rest. But because my legs refused to hold me any longer. I looked at my hands. They were dry, slightly shaking. These were the same hands that used to reach out for comfort when I was younger. No one ever held them back then. And no one was holding them now. My phone rang. I almost didn't answer. But when I saw the name, my chest tightened. Dad. He rarely called. I answered slowly. Hello. Hey, he said casually, like we were old friends. Everything fine at home? Home. I wanted to laugh at that word. Yes, I replied automatically. There was a pause. Then he said something that changed everything. You know, he continued, your mother said it was good timing you came. Babysitters are expensive these days. I stopped breathing. So that was it. Good timing. Not love. Not missing me. Not family. Convenience. So that was it. Good timing. Not love. Not missing me. Not family. Convenience. I felt something inside me crack, not loudly but deeply. Like ice breaking under still water. You planned this, I said quietly. Dad sighed. Don't be dramatic. We gave you food, a roof. You're helping family. Helping. That word again. Memories rushed in like a storm. Me canceling plans to help at home. Me choosing cheaper dreams so no one else felt uncomfortable. Me learning early that saying no came with consequences. And suddenly, I understood something terrifying. This wasn't new. This was a pattern. After the call ended, I didn't cry. I felt clear. Painful clarity. Like finally seeing the truth after years of fog. That evening, while the kids watched TV, I sat at the dining table with an old notebook I found in a drawer. It was mine. From years ago. Inside were scribbled dreams, places I wanted to go, things I wanted to become. Every dream stopped around the same age. The age when I learned my role. That night, Mom finally called. Her voice sounded tired now. Sunburned. Relaxed. We'll be back soon, she said. You did great. I held the phone tightly. Why didn't you tell me the truth? I asked. Silence. Then she said, we knew you wouldn't come if we did. That was it. The sentence that ended everything. I felt my throat close. So you lied. We didn't lie, she corrected. We just didn't say everything. I closed my eyes. My entire childhood suddenly made sense. After the call, I sat alone in the dark. And for the first time, I asked myself a question I had been avoiding my whole life. What if I stopped being useful? Would they still love me? The answer came instantly. And it hurt. The next morning, I made a decision. A quiet one.
No announcement.
No fight. Just a promise to myself. This would be the last time. As I packed a small bag in my room, I noticed how empty it felt. Not because things were missing, but because I had never really belonged there. When the kids came home, I hugged them tighter than usual. Not because I was angry at them, but because I knew something they didn't. I was leaving soon. And this time, I wasn't coming back for a reason that hurt me. Outside, the sun was setting. And for the first time since I arrived, I felt something unfamiliar rise in my chest. Not guilt. Not fear. But strength. After the decision settled inside me, I didn't feel brave. I felt calm. And that scared me more than fear ever did. Because fear meant I still hoped something might change. Calm meant I already knew nothing would. The morning passed quietly. I packed lunches. I tied shoelaces. I reminded the kids to brush their teeth. I did everything right. But for the first time in my life, I wasn't doing it to be loved. I was doing it because I chose to. And that difference was everything. While the kids were at school, I cleaned the house slowly. Not because it needed to be cleaned, but because movement kept my thoughts from screaming. Every room held memories. Not loud ones. Small ones. Me standing in the hallway as a child, listening to my parents argue behind closed doors. Me learning early how to disappear quietly. I used to think being quiet made me easy to love. Now I understood, it just made me easy to use. In the afternoon, Mom texted. We'll be home tonight. No heart emoji. No miss you. Just information. I stared at the message and realized something painful. If I had said I was leaving today, she would have asked who would watch the kids. Not why I was hurting. When the kids came home, they were loud and full of energy. I smiled at them. A real smile. Not because I was happy, but because they deserved warmth, not the coldness they didn't create. The youngest hugged my leg and said, I like when you're here. My chest tightened. Me too, I whispered. But I didn't say what I was really thinking. I won't stay just to be needed. That evening, I cooked dinner. The same food Mom usually makes. I watched the kids eat and realized something else. They never asked where our parents were. They were used to absence. Just like I had been. The front door opened around 9 p.m. Suitcases rolled in. Laughter followed. Mom looked tanned. relaxed. Dad looked rested. They looked like people who had enjoyed themselves. I stood up. Mom smiled. Hey, we're back. I nodded. I know. She paused. Maybe she expected excitement, gratitude, praise. I gave none of it. Dinner was awkward. Mom talked about the trip. Dad checked his phone. No one asked how I was. Not once. Finally, Mom said, "Thank you for helping. We couldn't have done this without you." I looked at her. And for the first time, I didn't soften my voice. I know, I said. Silence fell over the table. Later that night, Mom knocked on my door. "You seem distant," she said carefully. I sat on the bed and looked at her. "I've always been here," I replied. "You just never really saw me." She frowned. "That's not fair." I nodded. "I know. Truth rarely is." She tried to explain. How life was hard. How parenting was exhausting. How they trusted me. I listened quietly. Then I asked one simple question. "Did you ever think about how this made me feel?" She opened her mouth. Then closed it. That was my answer. "I'm leaving tomorrow," I said. Her eyes widened. "So soon?" "Yes." "But," she started, then stopped herself. She didn't ask me to stay. She asked, "What about the kids?" I smiled sadly. Exactly. That night, I didn't cry. I packed my bag slowly. Folded clothes. Placed memories back where I found them. I left the childhood photo in the drawer. Some things belong to the past. Before sleeping, I stood in front of the mirror. I looked older than when I arrived. But stronger too. "I choose myself," I whispered. No one answered. And for the first time, that felt okay. The house was quiet when I lay down. Tomorrow, I would walk away. Not in anger. Not in revenge. But in self-respect. And that, I realized, was the bravest thing I had ever done. Woke up before sunrise. The house was still asleep. For a moment, I lay there listening to the quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't feel lonely. But finished. Like the end of a long sentence you've been trying to say your whole life. I didn't rush. I brushed my teeth slowly. Folded the blanket neatly. Zipped my bag with calm hands. There was no panic. No second thoughts. That's when I knew I was doing the right thing. In the kitchen, I left a note on the counter. Not long. Not angry. Just honest. "I love you all. But I can't stay where I'm only needed, not loved. I'm choosing myself now." I didn't sign it. They would know who it was from. Before leaving, I checked on the kids one last time. They were asleep, faces peaceful, unaware of how much weight they carried without meaning to. I kissed their foreheads gently. "Be kinder to yourselves than the world is," I whispered. The advice I wish someone had given me. The front door closed softly behind me. Just like it had when they left days ago. But this time, I wasn't the one being abandoned. I was the one walking away. The air outside was cold. The sky was slowly turning pink and gold, like the world was starting over. I took a deep breath. It felt different out here. Lighter. At the airport, surrounded by strangers, I felt strangely at home.
No expectations.
No roles. No responsibility except one. Myself. My phone buzzed. A message from Mom. "Why didn't you wake us?" I stared at the screen. Then another message. "We could have talked." I typed, then erased. Finally, I sent just one line. "I've been trying to talk my whole life." I turned my phone off. On the plane, as the city disappeared beneath the clouds, memories came back. Not to haunt me, but to say goodbye. All the times I stayed quiet. All the times I accepted less. All the times I confused usefulness with love. I forgave myself for all of it. I was doing the best I could with what I knew then. When I landed back in my small apartment, nothing had changed. Same walls. Same silence. But I had. I unpacked slowly. I placed my bag down and sat on the floor, letting the quiet surround me. For the first time. It didn't hurt. Days passed. Then weeks. My parents called less. When they did, the conversations were short, polite, careful. They didn't understand my distance. But for once, I didn't try to explain it. Some people only understand boundaries when they feel them. One evening, while cooking dinner for myself, I realized something simple and powerful. I wasn't angry anymore. Anger needs energy. Healing needs honesty. And I was finally honest with myself. I started doing things just because I wanted to. Morning walks, journaling, saying no without guilt. The world didn't collapse. People adjusted. Or they didn't. Either way, I survived. One night, I stood in front of the mirror again. The same mirror, but a different person. "I'm proud of you," I said out loud. It felt awkward, then real, then healing. Sometimes, I still miss the idea of the family I wished I had. But I no longer chase it. I've learned something important. You can love people deeply, and still choose not to stay where you're hurt. Leaving didn't make me heartless. It made me free. And if anyone listening to this story feels guilty for choosing themselves, let me tell you something I learned the hard way. You are not selfish for protecting you.